I'm on, she says. I'm here. Here we are again on Wednesday. Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Cooking with Kat and Steph. Kat Ludwig, registered dietitian. Stephanie Pepper, speech language pathologist, will be here momentarily.
Behind the scenes, trying to
Get
fix the mess up.
the tech figured out. Better you than me.
Not really. That's not true, but hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone. We're so happy you're here. Thanks for joining us again. Today, we're going to talk about anti-inflammatory foods, and specifically why they're so important for anyone with a swallowing disorder. So, if you have questions, let us know in the comments below. We will try to answer everything in real time. And I have pots getting ready. We're gonna start with a typical fall tradition that we started last year, which is with a cup of tea, because turns out tea is anti-inflammatory. So
All tea or just green tea?
I'm going to say most tea.
Okay.
But we're going to get into that a little later on when I go over some of the other anti-inflammatory things that you can do for your body. So
Okay.
we'll start with the tea. And I believe our water's boiling. So I'm going to do this in a sort of dangerous way. I'll bring it over and I'll...
Are you gonna pour it?
Yep. Let's see how
I
this
trust
goes.
you.
I don't know about that. Well, don't trust me yet. Yep, I spilled all over the place. Okay, sorry. Thank goodness for towels.
Well, we've got towels, so we're good.
So, today we are talking about anti-inflammatory diets, why they're important for dysphagia. If you're on, please say hello and let us know where you're watching from. Please ask questions. We love questions. So, anti-inflammatory foods. Why? Well, our bodies have this thing called an immune system. Keeps us healthy, keeps us well. It, when we're not well, it fights off whatever it is that is making us not well, or it tries. So your immune system attacks anything that's not supposed to be there. It could be chemicals, it could be microbes like bacteria or viruses, it could be pollen if you have allergies, it could be proteins in food or other, I guess in food mostly, so a food allergy. So anything that can cause damage to your body, your immune system goes after. When there's damage in your body, you have an inflammatory process that presents itself so that your body can heal. We need inflammation. Inflammation is so important. But chronic, long-term inflammation that's not doing any good or is causing trouble, like autoimmune diseases, are inflammation that should not be there. It should not be happening. So we need to put foods in our body that support our good inflammation processes and decrease our bad inflammation processes.
Yes.
To put it as simply as possible.
So one of the questions that I know I've had recently is, can inflammation cause dysphagia?
Ooh, I think that depends. So I would say my dietitian brain says inflammation from things like acid reflux that is consistently causing trauma to the mucous membranes. I would say yes, it can. Allergies that are causing, in my case, I had a deviated septum and I had swelling in my nasal passages. It was causing inflammation back there. If it had gone on for longer than it should have, or if I hadn't gotten it corrected, I could have ended up with something more wrong than what was already wrong. So I would say yes.
Absolutely. So think about it. So inflammation can change your sensory perception.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can change the way your swallow mechanism feels things. So therefore change the way you are swallowing.
Yep.
So it can
Onions, hot pan with oil.
that's really hot too. I forgot about it. Oh, not too
Okay.
bad. Not too bad.
I put it on low, so it's okay.
Okay, good.
Yep. So, sensory.
So it changes how you feel, how your mechanism feels food within the system. So it changes maybe even how your muscles
work.
move.
Yeah.
The inflammation can change how the muscles.
So when you say sensory, hi Karen, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. When you say sensory, you could mean either hypersensitive, so extra sensitive, or hypo, less sensitive. You can't feel it as well, right?
You can overfeel it or you can underfeel it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It could go either way. And that depends on where the inflammation is and how your body is reacting to that inflammation.
So I just added some sausage to this.
Is it still frozen?
No, it's just cold. I'm just gonna turn this up just a smidgen. Okay.
Top here.
So, what foods do we eat that are anti-inflammatory? These foods are whole grains. That would be foods like oats, barley that's not processed, brown rice, quinoa, millet, farro. I could go on and on and on. So what this means is that the grain still has the outer part intact. It hasn't had the hull and the fiber containing part removed. So it's still got all the vitamins and minerals, it's still got the fiber, it still has the good fat, and yes, it still has the starchy part, that's the carbohydrate part that's gonna raise your blood sugar. These all together work symbiotically. They're really important. So we like whole grains. Some whole grains you can cook long enough and with enough water that they'll turn to mush and they'll puree really well. Brown rice being one of them. Quinoa, I think I don't know that we've tried quinoa to puree quinoa in the past. We may have. But there are some people with dysphagia that can tolerate it and some that can't. So it's one of those things that you have to...
Right. So we've talked a lot in the past about smooth versus not smooth puree.
Yeah. Pureeing grains, yes. So they're not too thick. And that's the other thing. Grains are full of starch. Starch is what we use as thickeners. They get thicker the more we move them and the more we cook them and the more water we add. So you may need to thin them extra. So we can come back to grains. The next one are fruits. Fruits, very anti-inflammatory. Vegetables, anti-inflammatory. And we're talking all vegetables. I'm not going to discriminate on the fruits and the vegetables. We want you to eat them, but we want to make sure you're eating the certain things in moderation. Quality fats. So fats, salmon has good quality fat in it. Avocado, thank you. My brain hit a wall for a second.
I know we talked about avocado earlier.
It was like 2 weeks ago that we talked about healthy fats. So omega-3 fats are specifically anti-inflammatory. So walnuts, we did walnut milk a couple weeks ago. That's a great source of high quality anti-inflammatory fat. Chia seeds, flax seeds, cold water fish, things along that line. Herbs and spices. So any herb you can think of, thyme, rosemary, sage, tarragon, marjoram, the list goes on and on and on. They're anti-inflammatory, so use your herbs. Spices, any spice that you can pull out of a spice drawer, as long as it doesn't have additives in it, is what we would consider anti-inflammatory.
That's my oven sings to you.
Our oven is ready, yay! Okay, so what we're making is a hash, a breakfast hash. So we're kind of doing breakfast for dinner. So we're gonna do colorful. The more color, the better. Color just screams anti-inflammatory because each color that's here has different health properties to it and is gonna support your body's systems. So, we started with onion. We do have a little bit of sausage. If you're vegetarian, you can do tofu with this. You can even add a bunch of herbs and spices to your tofu beforehand with a little bit of like olive oil to marinate it, and it'll go in this super, super well. So, I'm going to throw in our carrots because they're going to take a little longer to cook.
And we did start with olive oil too.
Yep.
So that's a healthy fat too.
Yep.
Better fat.
I try to use olive oil for almost everything. And then sweet potato. And I have 2 leaves of kale. I'm going to throw that in now also, because the more that cooks down, the better. It'll puree better the longer it cooks.
Yep.
So, tea. So this is a blueberry green tea, blueberry acai green tea. So the next thing on my list is tea. Tea is anti-inflammatory. So let me go back to the whole grains for a second here, and I may be able to show on my computer here my picture of what a grain looks like. I hope everybody can see that. So that's a whole grain with all the parts intact. You want all those parts because they do good things for your body. So carbohydrates are not all bad. High quality carbohydrates are anti-inflammatory. So this includes grains, fruits, and any veggies that are starchy. We just want to make sure we get them in the right amounts. What else did I miss there? So starches or carbohydrates that digest really quickly are inflammatory. So we're talking highly processed foods like donuts, white bread, white sugar. These foods increase our inflammatory processes, so we try to encourage low processed sugar and processed grain in your diet because those things cause increased pain, fatigue, GI discomfort. Your body doesn't like it when your blood sugar goes up really quickly and then drops. It's really hard on your body to combat that. And that's where the condition known as diabetes kind of comes from, because your body has trouble managing the sugar. People who drink lots of soda, really high in sugar, they gain weight, which in and of itself is not necessarily a problem. It's the reason for the weight gain. So if you start to get fatigued and sluggish and you can't move well, it could be the sugar that's the problem. Any food like a whole grain bread that has a lot of fiber in it and some protein in it, that's going to digest more slowly, and that's better for your system because it takes your body longer, and it's got more vitamins and minerals and protein and fiber and all the things in it that your body needs. So if you compared white bread to whole grain bread, huge difference in inflammatory process. Fruits and vegetables, get 7 to 10 servings a day. For a lot of people, this is impossible. So I tell people, do the best you can. If you can get 3 to 4 servings a day, I call that a win.
So is it 6 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables together?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're eating only fruits, I would say try to incorporate a vegetable. It should be both. It shouldn't just be one or the other. It should be both.
Okay.
Now, if you don't like fruits, eat the majority as vegetables. That's fine. If you can incorporate a fruit, I would say that's a good thing. Yeah.
Most people, I think, like the opposite though. They prefer the fruits because they're sweet.
They're sweet. We like sweet, and that's okay. But there are ways to make vegetables super delicious. So we want to figure out that process as much as possible. So color, like I said before, and variety. This hash, and this hash, you can technically do with any fruit or vegetable. You could use regular. This is a red skin potato. You could use that instead of sweet potato if you wanted. You could use spinach instead of kale. You could use whatever fruits and veggies you have on hand. And I say fruit because you can put tomato in there if that's what you want. That's fine. The different colors are what we call phytochemicals, and they have different benefits to your body. Some of them are great for your eyesight. You've heard that carrots are good for your eyesight?
Yes.
It's because of that phytochemical that makes them that color. Red fruits and vegetables have lycopene. Like tomatoes, they have lycopene. Also good for your eyesight. The white colored vegetables like cauliflower also have a benefit. I can't remember what it is right now. Cauliflower is also not one of my favorite things. But
I like cauliflower, but I was told once that the only thing cauliflower does for you is give you fiber.
I disagree.
Okay.
The white color of it has an actual health benefit for you.
Oh.
So yes, it's good. It's good for more than one thing. It's good for more than fiber. It's also high in sulfur. So all those sulfur-containing veggies, the cruciferous, so your Brussels sprouts, your broccoli, your cauliflower, they smell. What was it last week that we had the broccoli and the cauliflower in the thing? Woo! I actually couldn't open it in my house when I got home. I had to take it outside.
Wow.
Because it was so stinky. That sulfur-containing compound is really good for you, it turns out.
Okay, well, good.
For women, as we age, it's also helpful for our hormone function. So we would call those compounds estrogenergic. They're good for supporting your estrogen levels.
Okay.
So eat your cruciferous vegetables.
Deal.
They're good for your hormone levels.
I find it much easier to grow cauliflower than broccoli anyway.
I have heard that. I haven't tried to grow either.
I have a lot of cauliflower this year.
Yeah. I just don't know quite what to do with it. All right, so Karen says, tried vegetable soups, lots of vegetables. After blending, the taste is awful. There's no flavor. How do we overcome this? You have to over-season. Mm-hmm. You have to over-season those veggies.
And as you're cooking, you need to season along the way. So you need to add a little bit along the way.
We call that
builds.
Layering of flavor.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So,
and that may help you, or if you're afraid of how much, just wait until the end and add that in after you blend.
So the other thing that you can try, and this of course will take a little bit longer, is you can saute each of your things separately and puree them separately and then layer them.
They don't lose as much of their seasoning that way.
And then they taste like themselves. And then when you bite into them, you get each flavor separately, but they meld well in your mouth. So some soups we have found we like them better pureed once all those flavors meld. Mm-hmm. But it's really, like she said, about that flavor.
You build the flavor as you go.
Yes.
Yeah, and we do that a lot. So yeah. I think building your flavor.
So for example, like especially with meats, I know Karen, I believe you don't eat meat, but for meats, you want to season it a little bit at the beginning. And I'm not talking with salt necessarily, but with pepper, with garlic powder, with onion powder.
White pepper is much finer than black pepper too, so if you want to go white pepper route.
Yep. Very, very, very true. Okay, so I'm going to add our bell peppers and our celery, because that should cook down. And I have the celery leaves here as well. That'll just add a little bit of
yumminess.
Fun and then I do have a serrano pepper because we like it a little bit spicy. If you like that spice or you want that spice, you can add a hot pepper.
And hot peppers are good for some people who have less sensation within their swallowing disorder. So the heat sometimes helps you to feel it better.
Right.
In your mouth.
Right.
And or throat.
Yep. And then we have cooked zucchini and squash here that we're going to throw in right at the end since it's already cooked. It is in a sauce, right? We didn't talk about that.
It's not a sauce. It's just
cooked down.
It's just cooked
So
down.
it's saucy.
It's zucchini sauce. Yes.
Perfect. So I touched on quality fats. So omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Hi, Janet. Like to put my veggies in my pot and fry a bit of butter before adding stock for a soup. Yes, absolutely. The butter adds a really nice umami flavor. So we kind of think of umami as that fifth flavor apart from sweet, sour, bitter, and salt. Umami is that other one that gives us kind of that nice mouthfeel. You're 100% right about that. That does add flavor. So that's where fat comes in. Fat is really, really important for adding flavor and texture, and it holds flavor really, really well.
It does hold flavor very well. And it also helps, if you are blending, it helps to make what you're blending smoother.
Yes, 100%. If you're not getting smooth enough, you can try adding a little bit more fat into whatever it is that you're blending to get it a little bit smoother and give it a little bit more smooth mouthfeel. Karen, lots of veggies. I'm not eating enough even though I like them. Karen, that's, I think, everybody. Like I said earlier, 7 to 10 servings a day between fruits and vegetables. I struggle to get that many in. I guarantee you I don't get that many in, and I try pretty hard. Because even with what we're making here, this is high in veggie content. We're still not going to eat 7 to 10 servings in one meal. That would just be awful. You want to spread them out throughout the day. So omega-6 fats are inflammatory. This is important because when you need your inflammatory process to work, you need to have it work. Trust me. If you get a cut, blood rushes out. That blood that rushes out is bringing those good cells in your body to that area so they can immediately start healing it. So we want you to have omega-6s in your diet. This would be things like legumes, oils, other fats. The omega-3s, we want you to get enough. Most people don't get enough because this day and age, they're not in most of the things that we eat, which is why I recommend to a lot of people to take an omega-3 supplement every day. If you're not eating walnuts or avocado or flax seeds or chia seeds or salmon or tuna or mackerel every day, you're not getting enough. Most people do not eat those foods in general, let alone every day. So take an omega-3 supplement if you need to. It's going to be really helpful. Olive oil, super high quality fat. I try to use it in all my cooking at home, and I think we use olive oil for almost everything we do here. So we love our olive oil. The other fats that are inflammatory in a really bad way, omega-6s are inflammatory in a good way. The fats that are inflammatory in a bad way would be trans fats. So these are hydrogenated and anything fried. Because the hotter you get that oil, the more likely it is to degrade, and that causes all kinds of problems. And the more people I talk to that say they've cut out fried food, when they eat it, they don't feel good. Yeah. Okay, so that's the important part there. So herbs and spices I kind of mentioned before. Turmeric, ginger, garlic, curry, cinnamon, rosemary, basil, thyme, sage. Any herb and spice that you can think of, throw it into your cooking. Add it in stages like we were talking about with building that flavor, layering that flavor, and that's going to add extra flavor to everything you cook. So tea. Why is tea anti-inflammatory? It's really tasty.
It's a good one.
Tea has antioxidants and polyphenols. These are good substances that do good things in our body. If you ask me what exactly they do, I can't answer that for you right now because it's complicated. But the cultures that drink a lot of tea, Japan, India, they seem to be healthier than we are. Imagine that.
Well, I tried switching from coffee to tea,
Yes,
and it works. It's good for a little while.
yeah. I've
I
been
can- but-
drinking tea every morning for the last couple of weeks, and I enjoy it, but I really miss my coffee.
I enjoy it, but I would rather an afternoon tea
Cheers
and
to
a
that.
morning and a morning coffee.
I agree. So our teas, when we talk about tea being anti-inflammatory, what kind are we talking about? Green, white, black, herbal, and then I have red tea written here. I don't know that I've ever had red tea, to be honest with you. But red tea is all tea is anti-inflammatory. So drink your tea, and it's a great source of getting your hydration, especially if you're the type of person that doesn't like straight water. Try tea because it's got good antioxidants and other things in it, and it's hydrating. And you can thicken it. We can get thickening powder and we can thicken it, and you can enjoy your tea still. Okay, how are we doing on our? This
Well, I
looks
added. Yes, it's beautiful.
amazing.
See if I can get it over
Ooh,
there.
it might be hot. Do you want
It
to?
is. It's a little warm.
It's got tough fingers.
Can you see how pretty that is?
It's beautiful. We love all those colors.
All the colors.
Yep. So we are going to. It wouldn't be hashed without eggs. So we're going to
Make we have 3 eggs. We're going to make 3 little wells,
3 little wells. Okay.
and then put the eggs in those wells, and then we're gonna throw it in the oven.
If you're worried about getting shells in your eggs when you do this, crack them into a bowl first before you put them on your hash. All right, eggs are in.
And I will season those eggs a little bit. And we have a hot oven.
And this is gonna cook for a few minutes. We'll keep an eye on it. Red Rooibos chai tea. Hey, there you go, Janet. Thank you for that. Red Rooibos. I have had it before. I love that.
Thanks.
Perfect.
I've never heard of it.
You haven't?
I've heard of chai tea.
Yeah, Rooibos. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to find some and
We will.
yeah.
I'm sure Whole Foods
So
has it.
let's talk about things that are inflammatory.
Okay.
Do you have any idea, anyone who's on right now, what types of things, these don't necessarily have to be in food related, but what types of things might you encounter that are inflammatory? So write them in the chat if you can think of something. So what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, if there's something that you eat and you love and it's easy for you to eat and you eat it a lot because it's easy for you to eat, but it's not necessarily as good for you or anti-inflammatory, let us know. Let us, like, we
Yeah.
can help to maybe alter that a little bit to where you get the taste and the
Yeah.
that you love
Right.
about it, but in a more healthy
Absolutely.
way.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes. So processed crackers, cookies, cake. So yes, so I did mention sort of with the carbohydrates earlier. Anything that's refined, anything that's highly processed, white flour, white sugar, anything that is put on a machine and broken down and then has to be put back together, inflammatory. And not because it's broken down, but because your body doesn't have to do the work then, and it's had all the good stuff taken out of it.
Right.
And then
Or it's been cooked out.
or cooked out, or it's artificially replaced. Janet, gluten inflames your digestive systems. Okay, so before I go to the rest of my list, let's talk about that, because gluten in itself is not inflammatory in the grand scale of the universe. But But for people who do not tolerate gluten and either have celiac disease or are sensitive to it, it's absolutely inflammatory. So anything that you put in your body that your body doesn't like, even if it's tomato has lycopene. It's high in these phytochemicals that are really good for you. If your body doesn't like it,
and it's anti-inflammatory in general, but if your body doesn't like it, it might be inflammatory to you.
So anything that you're sensitive to, and you know that if you put it in your body, you may have digestive upset, you may have increased reflux, you may have joint pain, you may have headaches, you may have congestion. These are signs. You may have phlegm. I've seen a lot of people posting in some of the Facebook support groups, the dysphagia groups, about drinking or eating certain things and having that that's a sign that something you're eating or drinking doesn't agree with you.
Well, it also could be a sign of residue or pooling.
Yes.
So it may not be inflammatory. It may be that the muscles haven't gotten things where they need to go, but it could be a sign of you getting more drainage through there.
And drainage is a sign that your body doesn't like something.
Right, because it's trying to wash it out.
Yes. And washing out, as we've talked about before, is a sign that something is wrong. So listen to your body, because your body's really smart. Hi, Kara. Nice of you to join us. That's okay that you're late. We'll take you anyway. We're happy you're here.
And that's why some people, when they eat, their nose runs, their eyes water, because it's an inflammatory reaction trying to fix the problem of either the wrong foods or things going in the wrong place, and the body's trying to wash it out.
Yep. Absolutely. So anything that's highly processed, anything that your body does not like, these are two inflammatory things. Alcohol is another one. Alcohol is known as a toxin. It causes inflammation in the stomach. People who overuse alcohol typically end up with gastritis, pancreatitis, indigestion, diarrhea, etc. So we don't recommend alcohol because it's inflammatory. If you're having an inflammatory process, we ask people to cut back. If you're not having an if you're not having an inflammatory process and you want to have a glass of wine or a drink every now and again, do what you're gonna do. We are not here to judge. Steph and I enjoy a glass of wine now and again. We are not here to judge, like I said. But if it's a problem, whether it's one glass or it could be a certain kind of alcohol you react to poorly, cut it out and see if you feel better. Stress. Did you know that stress is inflammatory? Stress can cause your body to have physical reactions that increase inflammation. So I had lab work done this week, and one of the things that I saw in one of my results is that stress can cause certain levels of certain things to be elevated or decreased in an unhealthy way. I have a lot of stress in my life. You have a lot of stress in your life. Here's the thing. Everybody has a lot of stress in their life. It's all about how you manage it. So if you have high stress, eating well is even more important, because sometimes the stress is not something we can control. It's always going to happen. Something is always going to happen. We talk about setbacks a lot. Control what you can. And typically that would be what you put in your mouth.
True.
That's why I'm enjoying my tea instead of coffee lately. So caffeine. Caffeine can sometimes be inflammatory, especially if people drink excessive amounts. Also why I cut back on caffeine. Well, coffee. I haven't necessarily cut back on caffeine because green and black tea still have caffeine in them.
Right.
And then allergies and sensitivities we kind of touched on before. Anything that your body doesn't like, try to avoid it. Sometimes your body tells you in very subtle ways and it's hard to understand what it means. So pay attention to what your body's telling you. How's our eggs looking?
Coming along.
I'd say probably another 2 minutes or so and those will be ready, and then we'll start blending some stuff. So we have a couple of things to blend with, just if we need a little extra moisture. We can use some plain Greek yogurt. We have some sour cream. We have some salsa. You can use anything at home to blend with that you want. You could use broth. You could use a little bit of milk if that's what you wanted. You could use literally whatever sounds good to you. So the last thing I'll say about anti-inflammatory diet, and please, if you have any questions, hit us with them. We want to answer them. Have you heard before that the group of foods known as nightshades are inflammatory?
I've not heard that.
You have not heard that. So there are people out there that believe that nightshades, which include potatoes, peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, are inflammatory. There's no proof that they actually cause inflammation. And a lot of these foods, people that eat them show that they're beneficial to your body. Once again, that purple color of the eggplant has a special phytochemical that does nice things for your body. It's an antioxidant. Tomatoes, lycopene, good for your eyesight and other things. Potatoes, good fiber. And that white color, like cauliflower has,
Who
is
knew
also in
that the
potatoes.
white?
Yes. So no research has ever proven that nightshades are problematic. That being said, there are people out there. One of my dear grandmothers, God rest her soul, informed me years ago that potatoes and her did not get along, and she ate potatoes and she ended up not being able to walk. And then she went through some therapy and was able to walk again. But it could have been that her body did not like whatever compound was in that food. So it could be that tomatoes don't agree with you. It could be that potatoes don't agree with you. Psoriasis, aggravated by nightshade. That I would believe.
Could be.
And for some people it might not, and for some people it might. But this is exactly what I'm saying. So psoriasis is an autoimmune type of a condition, and a lot of autoimmune conditions are aggravated by certain foods. Finding out what those foods are makes all the difference, but it's hard to do. This is where dietitians come in, because we know kind of how to talk you through an elimination diet. Complicated. It's so complicated. So if you don't tolerate certain foods and those foods happen to be nightshades, avoid them.
I'm going to let it go just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more? Okay. I'm going to finish my tea.
Do it. I think I'm going to blend up a little bit of this first.
Okay. Salsa.
A little bit of salsa so that we have salsa to
Do you
top it with.
want a little jar to put it in or a little bowl to put it in once you're done? All right. So the other thing, I didn't talk about was chemicals. So I said I was done. I'm not done. I'm sorry.
Keep talking.
When am I ever done? So, oh, that's beautiful looking salsa. So this salsa Stephanie made, and it's really, really tasty. I had to make some for myself this year because it's kind of my new favorite salsa. I can't buy it at the store anymore. It's not the same. That looks pretty good. It has corn in it, right?
It does. I use corn for the sweetness instead of sugar. I'm going to blend one more time.
Okay. Blend away. Okay. So, I'm reading some of my labels here because I want to see if they have any additives in them. So chemicals would be things like additives to your food that are not food substances. So anything that's a preservative that is added to a food would be considered a chemical. Any of the things that you use to clean your counters, bleach is a chemical. Your laundry detergent is a chemical. Air fresheners are a chemical. So any of the chemicals that we come into contact with in our environment can also be inflammatory. We want to make sure that we are decreasing the chemicals in our surroundings that cause us problems. And there's been a lot of work with this in the last several years. People are trying to come out with cleaners that are safer for the environment and not harmful to your body. Chemicals are hard on your system, and your body, if you ingest them, has to figure out what to do with them. That looks lovely. And it smells really good. Okay, so we have breakfast hash, sweet potato hash. Let's puree one and see how it goes.
But it's very vegetable heavy, so I don't know that I would call it a breakfast hash. Not an American breakfast hash, anyway.
I worked at a restaurant that made something like this on our brunch menu.
Well, I get that, but the restaurants you worked at were
different than
a bit bougie
in the Midwest. That's true.
Yeah,
they were in Seattle. That restaurant was also preservative free. We couldn't have anything in the restaurant that had any chemical additive in it. So I was looking at the ingredient list for the Chobani non-fat Greek yogurt because a lot of non-fat yogurts have stabilizers and fat replacers added to them because texturally they need a little bit of help. They're not pleasant. Yeah, Kara, so we are trying to do an appropriate hash that we can puree that's anti-inflammatory. And I would say the only thing in here that's probably not anti-inflammatory would be the sausage. But
there's so much anti-inflammatory stuff.
Yep. Our anti-inflammatory outweighs what's not anti-inflammatory. So this Chobani yogurt is only cultured non-fat milk. That looks so beautiful.
Yeah, so that egg will run.
Mushrooms in here would have been really delightful too.
Well, I forgot to tell you, but there are mushrooms in this.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So
boom.
Done. So if you can buy ingredients that don't have additives in them, that's great. Now, it's really hard to find things like salad dressing that don't have weird additives in them because they need stabilizers and they need I'm so excited to see how this is going to turn out. And we have a little bit of salsa. We're going to add either sour cream or yogurt to this if it needs a little bit of help.
It's going to need some kind of. I wish I had some like bone broth.
Oh, neither of these is open. Let's open my little yogurt then. It's all right. This might be because I've had it sitting on the counter, so it's more or less room temperature. So I'm going to see if it. Do we want to add just a little bit of water to this?
I think I'm going to have to.
Yep. So I did last night for dinner. My dad and his lovely wife were visiting us this last week. I had leftover pork tenderloin, and so I did stir fry with a bunch of veggies, and I marinated the pork in some. That's gonna be fantastic. In some orange pineapple juice with a little bit of fish sauce and a little bit of oyster sauce and a little bit of teriyaki sauce, a little bit of tamari, and it turned out really, really good. And then, of course, I had brown rice on the side because I gotta have my whole grain. I don't even buy white rice anymore.
I like brown rice, but not everyone in my family does.
Yeah. So, and my husband doesn't even notice anymore that it's brown rice and not white rice because he's so used to me choosing brown rice. So, it smells really good.
It's very smooth too.
Very smooth. Okay. This cup is very thin.
Ready?
Yep.
There's still a few little chunks in there.
There was a chunk in there.
It could be.
So.
It could be blended again if necessary. Yeah, put some of.
So I'm going to put a little bit of this over the top. So like I said, if you really wanted to keep your flavors of this separate, you could saute everything separately, cook your eggs separately, and then you could puree it and layer everything. And that would keep all those separate flavors intact. Okay, so we're going to try this now.
And really, if you don't eat meat, there is enough protein in here with the eggs. So you could just do vegetables.
Yep.
And then bake the eggs.
I gotta take a picture. Sorry, everybody. I gotta take a picture before we dive in.
And get that.
Okay, so vegetables do have protein in them. People that are vegetarian survive on just vegetables and whole grains without meat all the time because it's just a wobbly teacup. And we're back to doing some of our fun. Janet, if hot peppers disagree with you, they can cause inflammation. Now, capsaicin, which is the compound that makes them spicy, has been known to decrease inflammation in some people. However, it can cause problems in other people. So yes, you could be very sensitive.
It's delicious. I can taste the egg yolk throughout.
It adds nice smoothness. Yep. And the salsa over the top was a really nice addition. And if we wanted, we could put a little bit of this yogurt or sour cream as another little layer, cool layer. All those veggies, they meld well together. We let it cook together. It's cooked enough so that everything purees smooth. I think this is a win. So this, I want everyone watching to know that you can puree almost anything. And this dish is proof of that because this is really tasty. I'm really pleased with this. Right. And it's super smooth.
And if you're cooking, so if you have to cook for your family, but you can't eat what you cook for them because of your dysphagia, we want to help you. Because Absolutely. I don't want you to have to drink a protein drink at dinner because you spent all of your time and energy feeding the family.
Right.
We can help you know how to puree the things that you're cooking for them so that you can be a part of that too. That's very important to us.
Extremely important, yeah. Karen, we can taste the veggies in here. Absolutely, we can taste the veggies in here. It's bright and fresh, and I think having the zucchini that was already cooked was probably a benefit.
Then we didn't have to saute as long.
But they're also full of moisture, which is great for this dish in general. So this dish is higher in protein because it does have the meat and the eggs. It's high in water content because it has a bunch of veggies that are high in water content. It's great for all the phytochemicals, all those beautiful colors. It's got a bunch of servings of veggies in here. This is a fantastic anti-inflammatory meal. So you could do this minced and moist. So you could do this in your little blender.
This is pretty much minced and moist. Truly,
we got to do it. We got to show you that we can do this minced and moist without a knife, with just a fork.
The egg kept cooking, so
Yep.
cook it less if you want your egg a little runnier. Now the sausage in here may not.
It may not. Oh, that zucchini might still be.
Well, I can do that with a.
Or we can take a little knife. I didn't bring my little chopper that I normally bring.
This, I'm just taking that part out.
Okay.
So had that piece cooked a little bit more.
So,
But this, all of this, even the sausage, is mashing through the fork.
so minced and moist. You can do this dish as liquidized. You just need to add extra liquid to get it to that level 3 for IDDSI. As long as it goes through a tines of the fork, here it's considered level 3, so you don't necessarily need a funnel to test it if it's a food. Pureed would be less liquid, so it's more sturdy and holds up on a fork. Minced and moist would be level 5. So anytime you want minced and moist, as long as it goes through the tines of a fork, you get minced and moist. If you need to put it in a food processor because you don't want to take the time to mash it with a fork, you can put it. The BlendJet even has a pulse function that would work pretty well. I
Pulse
think
it a few times.
Yep. Or the Ninja.
A food processor, anything. They have smaller little food processors like Kat has often brought.
I think there's one listed on a resources page. I'm gonna have to double check that for our website, dysphagiaduo.com. And you can find them on Amazon. There's even one that has a little pull. It's manual, so it doesn't need to be charged or have a battery. It does take a little bit more effort, which would be about the same as this. But you have so many options to get this meal to a minced and moist. This is gonna get to a minced and moist super easy. You can add a little bit extra moisture to it afterwards with the sour cream, with the yogurt, with the salsa, with just about any little sauce that you wanted to put on here. And
But
it's
this is soft and bite size, for sure.
Yep, this is soft and bite size. So that would be level 6. So we went through 4 levels with our hash.
Yes.
And the really interesting part is the kale that was in here, you can't even see. Like it pureed super, super well. It adds a great amount of fiber. It's cooked enough that it comes apart with a little bit of chewing. And I think if you use
spinach instead of kale, it would cook down a little easier too, a little smoother.
It would be very soft, yeah. Because spinach cooks down super well.
Yeah.
So you've got a great option here, depending on your level that you need for your diet texture.
And we actually made it very quickly. This is a quick and easy meal, other than the chopping, because we did that before we started.
Yep.
But you could chop them up the night before or the day before, or
get someone to help you chop them up. Make it a family
deal. Yes. And it's delicious.
That's so good. The flavor's so good. Yeah. All right, everybody. If you have more questions, please let us know what they are. If you have a food, like Stephanie said, that you want us to talk you through or you want us to make, we will make it.
Right.
We didn't mention at the beginning, but we are going to be moving these lives to our group, Dysphagia Support for Nutrition and Swallowing, starting the first Wednesday in October. So if you have not joined our group, get on over there and request to join, because we will no longer be streaming from our business page, Dysphagia Duo. We'll be streaming from the group.
The support group. Yes.
Yes.
So join us in the support group. Support group. Dysphagia Support for Nutrition and Swallowing on Facebook.
Yep. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. And next week, at Karen's request, we are going to be talking about the IDDSI liquid levels and the consistencies and how you get things there. So join us next week. All right.
See you then.